White privilege doesn't exist? Alright, let me try to prove it to you.
Before I get into the main argumentation of the video, there's a few things that I want to point out real fast. In terms of finances, white people don't earn as much in comparison to minorities in this country. Also, in cases of discrimination, we have plenty of examples where white people are openly discriminated because they're basically white in this country. Prior to Harvard University being sued directly by the Supreme Court, we do in fact know that in the past that basically white people had deducted scores from the SAT scores in comparison to the black colleagues. Their main reason why they did that was because they wanted to have an equal playing field for those who are not necessarily, you can say, black. Another aspect that seems to be affecting white people as of lately is the ideas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Hiring people based upon their meritocracy is actually a really good thing to do. However, because of the policies of diversity, equity, and inclusion, basically many white people are being discriminated against. They want as many minorities for the quota and not necessarily because of your whole entire qualification. In many college campuses, there are black-only centers, but if one day, if somebody wants to open like a white-only center, I'm pretty sure that most people will freak out and cry about that. In terms of suicide, white people are doing really bad. Are there white-only scholarships? Because there are plenty of black-only scholarships and other races for their scholarships.
So now, on to being white. First, being white, the color of your skin, is clearly a trait. Secondly, it's a trait that you have very low control over. And finally, it's a trait that positively influences at least some areas of your life. Be that it's more common for you to see inspirational figures that look like you represented on screen.
You can say that for basically every other country out there. Japanese movies are going to be represented by Japanese people. Movies in African countries are going to be represented by African people. America must be the only country in the world that represents pretty much everybody for their movies.
Or that it's more likely that your name will be easier for your teacher or supervisor to pronounce.
This applies to every single country out there, man, and not just America. If you go to a foreign country and they mispronounce your name, that happens to pretty much anybody, no matter their background.
You will almost surely interact with at least one racist person in your life that genuinely thinks that white people are superior, and that person will treat you better because of it.
While it's true that white supremacists do in fact exist, the reality is that there's a major difference between white supremacists and woke people today. The difference is that white supremacists get universally condemned. However, if a black person says that they cannot be racist against white people because they're black, that's actually okay for many circles. So white supremacists get condemned, woke people on that issue not so much. This whole entire issue is not necessarily about race. This whole entire issue is a question about class. If a black person was born to a rich family, you cannot necessarily tell me that the rich black person has it worse off in comparison to the poor white person. Or if an Asian has more money because they basically have a rich family, they are better off in comparison to that poor white person. Instead of calling it white privilege, why not call it class privilege? Because this is all the whole entire conversation about.